Thank you for joining Minding Your Brain, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Candace Gantt. I am the founder of the Mind Your Brain at Penn Medicine Conference, and also the founder and executive director of the Mind Your Brain Foundation. Our show focuses on education and awareness for brain injury survivors, what they face every day, the struggles. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing to you retired Brigadier General Bolduc, who is as well a brain injury survivor. During his 33 years in his career in the U.S. Army, he received 2 awards for valor, 5 Bronze Star medals, 2 Purple Hearts. He is of the first groups in Afghanistan. After the 9/11 attacks, he rode in on horseback. That's what I said, horseback, to take control of the southern Afghan region, fighting the Taliban. He was also one of the few survivors of both a helicopter crash and a 2,000-pound bomb attack. After returning home to his beloved New Hampshire, General Bolduc has been a tireless advocate to combat the stigma around and treatment of post-traumatic stress. The general, along with his wife Sharon and his service dog, Victor, were our keynote speaker at the Mind Your Brain Foundation in 2019. 350 of our participants, our attendees, brain injury survivors, gave him a standing ovation for 2 minutes. He's a powerful speaker. But today, we want to really talk about brain injury and the remarkable recovery and his new mission. So welcome. It's so happy to see you.
Candace, it's great to see you. God bless you, and thank you for everything the Mind Your Brain organization does as part of Penn Medicine. I've been down there twice now for 2 different events, and it's just amazing what you do. The collaboration with the Veterans Medical Center there, how that is all connected, how you bring it all in, and the scope and the people that you touch and understanding these hidden wounds. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me today. The first thing I wanted to ask is to explain your involvement and the interest in traumatic brain injuries in the military. Tell us a little about that.
Well, it started in 2013 with my wife saying, hey, you need to get some help. We've been living with this for quite some time. We were in Germany. I had been reassigned to Africa Command. I just finished up my 10th tour in Afghanistan, and we PCS'd, permanent change of station, to Germany, Stuttgart, Germany. And my wife is a nurse. She had been noticing for quite some time, since about 2006 and 7, that I just wasn't the same person, that the effects of war, the effects of deployments, the effects of my injuries had changed me in a way that wasn't conducive to being the best version of myself and somebody who, operated the best they could inside their personal and professional life. So I went for help. Now, I had just been promoted to Brigadier General, so I was still not comfortable inside the military system with letting people know that I was getting help for post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury. And so I did it under the radar. And unfortunately, I struggled with my approach. And when I became the commander in 2015 of Special Operations Command Africa, where I was in charge of 2,000 personnel on the continent of Africa in 28 different countries, and we were struggling with disciplinary behavior. We were struggling with drugs and alcohol use inside our military, among our elite forces. climate problems inside the workplace. Um, I said to myself, enough's enough. I have to come forward. The only way that we are going to impact this and impact it in a positive way is by leadership, bringing an understanding and destigmatizing this and protecting the people in their command that they're responsible for. And my mantra was, hey, the general officer can't take care of himself, then he's got no business taking care of anybody else. So I, went public. New York Times wrote an article. I was contacted by my chain of command and advised that wasn't the best course of action. And I said, well, I'm not doing this for myself or for another star or for anything else. I'm doing it for the men and women in our command. We put together a very good program. And over a 26-month period, we identified 52 people with post-traumatic stress, 471 with traumatic brain injury, pain management issues. The numbers are just off the chart, and sleep disorders. And there's a certain amount of neurotoxicity in there as well from different medications, from the environment, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So we put together a program, and we saw a huge change in drug and alcohol use, productivity, climate change. It was unbelievable. We saved marriages, got plenty of testimonies from people along those lines. But it was an approach that wasn't consistent with Department of Defense policy. Nobody told me to stop, so I didn't. But they warned me that talking about it creates more problems. I fundamentally disagree with that. Talking about it, getting it out, creates solutions. Treating mental injury, physical injury, and spiritual health in that triad is hugely important. And so that's what we did. And that's where I ended.
That work you do is just incredible and amazing. You're a maverick. And what percentage of the military personnel have sustained TBI? Is this a large population? Is it something we can understand by the volume,
I think
the numbers?
the statistics are fuzzy. Nobody really knows because the approach stigmatizes so much that regardless of the number of programs, which Department of Defense has a lot of programs, and so does the VA, but the stigma is so high, and the consequences that coming forward are not palatable to our military personnel and their families. Risk of promotion, getting taken out of their job, losing their clearance, not being with the people they love, being set aside and stigmatized. That person, has got a mental illness, which it's not. It's a mental injury, and through therapy and other, medical techniques, it can be overcome. You're still highly functioning, and you're more optimal, but that falls on deaf ears a lot of time because of you're weak if you ask for help. My mantra is you're strong if you ask for help. And you're going to be a better version of yourself. You're going to be more productive in the workplace, more productive at home. And we owe it to them. So they're fuzzy statistics. About 67% of all the total PTS cases, 67% is the Army, 9% is the Air Force, 11% is the Navy, and 13% is the Marines. Okay. In our veteran community, about 2.7%. And it's believed that 50% of that don't seek treatment, which is not good. 19% of our veterans have TBI, and 7% roughly have both. I'm one that has both, right? And sleep disorder adds to that. Pain management adds to that. If you don't get those things taken care of and you're in constant pain, it complicates things. But the true statistic is in 2018, there's two studies. One says 321, which is an internal Department of Defense study, and one is an outside study that says 541. military service members across active duty, reserve, and National Guard killed themselves, committed suicide. That's a battalion's worth of strength. That's a lot of people. Now, from 2008 to 2018, over 60,000 veterans killed themselves. That's a 10-year period that exceeds the number of people killed in the Vietnam War, to give it, to allow people to understand it clearly. So we have a problem out there, and we're not addressing it effectively because we're not dealing with the root cause. And the root cause really is understanding and destigmatizing.
And so, Don, tell me, what's the impact? I know that your voice speaks volumes. What else are you doing? How are we changing this perception amongst our military?
Well, first and foremost, just getting out there and talking about it. I make my case using myself as an example, right? And of course, now that I'm in a Senate race, which I don't want to talk about, but because I have PTS and TBI, people use that to suggest that I'm not capable of serving as a United States Senator, right? Which could be further from the truth. So people see that and they're like, I don't want to expose myself to that kind of criticism, right? They even attack Victor as a quote gimmick, or he doesn't really need that dog. Look at him, he's healthy. Well, you and I both know that, you can look perfectly healthy with a brain injury, but the devastation of a brain injury is as crippling as any physical injury. So, it's just a lack of understanding and people being mean and people being callous about it. But that has a tremendous effect. So getting out there, talking about it, using myself as an example, because I have been told countless times, hey, that general can do it, I can do it. And if one person, one veteran at a time, one family member at a time, if we can get them to move forward, they have a circle of friends that are suffering from the same thing, and they will go get help. And so you have this, throw a pebble in the pond and the ripple effect. And so getting out in the state, getting out in New England, getting out nationally, getting on TV, getting on programs, radio, writing about it, and making myself available to veterans and their family members and service members. You'd be surprised the number of service members I talk to can't go and talk to anybody else. And the number of service members who get in trouble, not because it's indiscipline, but because they're self-medicating to compensate for their mental injuries, and they're getting in trouble, and we're kicking them out of the Army, right? Or out of the Marine Corps, or out of the Navy. And when we do that, they don't have access to veteran care because of the nature of their discharge. So this has an effect that just builds upon itself, and then the next thing you know, somebody crashes, right? And that's why we have 22 suicides a day on the veteran side that we know of, knowing that only 21 states do any type of reporting. The rest of the states don't do any reporting. So we really don't know the real extent.
Impact, right. And I think this civilian population, you can extract all those numbers to a larger population and know what we face every day in the whole of the United States and suffering.
Right.
And
when I talk, Candace, I talk about combat injury, and my focus is veterans and service members. But I know that there are plenty of other people that have had traumatic brain injury due to sporting accidents, traffic accidents, head injuries from falling, and suffer post-traumatic stress from tragic things that happen to them and don't get the care. So I know there's a much larger problem we have that we're not addressing, and it's causing a lot of problems. And look at our younger generation. I mean, they're from 14 to 24, the suicide rates are unbelievable. And we got to really get, we got to get a grip on that. And we're not. We're just not addressing the root causes to it. And that's what we need
They
to
need
do
treatment.
collectively as a society. This isn't because we're weak. As
Agreed.
you know, there's been psychiatric studies that go all the way back to Sparta and traumatic brain injuries and post-traumatic stress. They've seen writings, the effects of war, the effects of trauma, the effects of everything that happens in life, uh, no one can escape. And it's incumbent upon a responsible society to take care of people, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not give them things, that's not where I'm going with this, but we have a responsibility and we should,
Yeah.
we should recognize that and do the right thing.
Indeed, indeed. And what feedback are you getting? So you've been broadcasting this message far and wide, and we're so appreciative of that. So what are you hearing? What's the feedback that you're getting from this population?
I get a lot of positive feedback, a lot of great feedback from service members, from veterans. I get a lot of notes saying, thank you for doing this. It makes it easier for us, even though I don't feel comfortable going to get help. At least I know and recognize in myself, and it's helping me and my family. They're certainly doing more reading about it. And really, what they really understand is they're not weak, that
Exactly. They're strong, in
that
fact.
they're strong, and that this is something that just happens. And thank goodness that we have that we're human, that we're not robot, that these things do affect us the way they do. So we don't lose our compassion, we don't lose our empathy, we don't lose our humanity. And God, imagine if we did. It would be even worse out there.
Yeah. Indeed. So tell me about the caregivers too. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the struggles that the caregivers have as well. And I know your wife specifically, and so many other people out there. They need a few words of encouragement. What could you tell them about their sacrifice and their
So
suffering?
caregivers get post-traumatic stress as well, and it really takes a toll on them. The VA, Congress passed a law, empowered VA to provide caregiver stipends, right?
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. But they only did it for the 9/11 combat veteran era. We need to
Oh,
expand that to the Vietnam, Korea, and World War II. Um, Developing policies that single out one combat era at the expense of others is a really bad thing to do. And believe it or not, um, the 9/11 veterans don't have post traumatic stress any higher than any other veteran era, right? It's
right.
just
Agreed.
we've been studied more, and it's been more accepted for us to talk about it. Veterans that are able to talk about their experiences do far better in civilian life than those that are told, put your duffel bag in the corner, go get a job, and don't talk about anything.
Right.
And it just pushes it down, and it creates physical problems. It creates alcohol abuse, sometimes drug abuse, sometimes both, integration issues, problems at home. I mean, you're a healthcare professional, you know the deal, you know what all this does. And we have to make everybody else understand what this does. And you know what?
That's the key.
Cheaper to treat that than it is to let it go untreated. Uh, and that's another thing. People always want to put a price tag on it, right? And we shouldn't put a price tag on it. And we should privatize it as much as possible, get the government out of it, because the government gets in the way and does a lot of negative things when it's trying to help, and open up the opportunities so people can get help. I mean, I still go to my therapist at the VA, Dr. Gilbertson. He's a great guy. He understands me, and now that we have this COVID thing, we do it via Zoom. So it's all good.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That telehealth is remarkable invention and gives us great capabilities to address some of those challenges. And so, just to wrap it all up, what would you tell anyone that was watching or was considering donating to the foundation? Is there any message you could give them to encourage them to really support all of our efforts to
mhm.
help the brain injury survivor population? This is a desperate need.
Yeah, I would tell you to donate. I would tell you to every penny counts. Everything goes to helping others with their brain injury. It's an injury. Let's treat it. It can be treated just like a broken ankle. No one gets stigmatized for a broken ankle, uh, but boy, having a mental injury, you get stigmatized big time. And it takes money. It does. And it takes money in the right organization. And you are the right organization that's going to take that money and spend the majority of every dollar goes towards helping our more than a majority of it uh, to helping people with brain injury. And there's no better way to help than to invest in this program.
As your fellow soldiers and your fellow officers have called you Captain America, which I love. Thank you for being such a powerful advocate for brain injury survivors and specifically post traumatic stress survivors. If our viewers would like more information about PTSD and your story, well, of course, they could see it on 60 Minutes or on YouTube, but is there a website that they could go to for more information about what you're doing and
Yeah,
advocacy?
they can go to www.donbolduc.com, and there's a place there to hit a button, and you can send a message, and the message will get to me through the website, and I will respond. I am, um, uh, I talk to 2 or 3 veterans a day, um, and sometimes service members. And so I give them all the time that they need. And anyone who wants to talk about this, uh, just go through that website and you'll get me, and I'll be in touch in short order.
You're just amazing. And if this audience has would like more information about the Brain Injury Association of America or the Mind Your Brain Foundation, they can go to www.mindyourbrainfoundation.org, and we'll be happy to just send them links to your site as well. And I would thank you from the bottom of my heart and from my family to yours. Thank you very much for your service. It's an honor to talk with you today.
Thank you, Candace. And it's an honor to talk to you. You're a hero of mine. You have been since I met you. And I love your amazing grace uh, sign back there. That's awesome. It just goes to show the depth of your kindness, your care, and the sincerity in which you're involved in this program. And I know it's personal for you, but you're helping so many people. So thank you very much.
You as well. Thank you. We're a good team.
Yes, God bless you.
God bless you.